I'm old now. Hello, everybody. Remember the podcast? Sometimes there's a podcast. Welcome to Dialog Choices Podcast, unless this is a bonus episode that I call something else.
Audacity crashed right when I pressed record, so
Hot. I've never been so turned on.
We're gonna do that over again.
No, just launch it again.
Okay. For syncing with Keith's audio, 3, 2, 1, record. Okay, I'm recording now.
Real time Audacity. The audacity of this bitch to crash.
Can't believe that it happens every single time. I press record on OBS or on Audacity, and it's just the first time of the day when I press record, it just doesn't work. Every other time it's fine, but the first time I press record, it breaks.
Welcome to our semi-frequent podcast. It was weekly once, and then it wasn't.
It's almost scheduled.
It was weekly until we started doing Monster Prom and then Resident Evil with that time slot. It's actually wild looking back through the history of these episodes and realizing that, like, episode 69 was PAX West, and this is episode 75.
Nice.
Like,
I guess that was a while ago, huh?
Yeah, no, we did PAX West, an episode about Resident Evil, some other episode, then the Nintendo Direct, and then we did the Cloud Cuckoo Country episode, and then the Illusory Wall episode. So
I feel like I've been in more podcasts than I realize.
Yeah, no, because we haven't had other ones. The 2 guest podcasts over a month ago are the last ones we did. Whoops. Anyway, we're here. It's my birthday, and we just got back from Las Vegas FurCon, so I guess we'll talk about that, and maybe Andrew will join us. I can't tell. Scrolling through here, I just realized we never talked about MFF either.
I thought we talked about it for a little bit. We talked about it during the PAX one.
Yeah, maybe it was during another one. PAX would have been before MFF by like a month.
Was it before? Was it before MFF?
Definitely, because MFF is the beginning of December.
I guess you're right. In my head,
I remember writing the phrase, Neferu is a messy bitch, in Bird's living room. So I was definitely in Seattle when I was writing the script still, whereas I launched the last essay on the way to MFF. But we might have discussed it in one of the other episodes somewhere, because there's some other ones in there. Who the fuck knows? Do any of you guys remember? Yay!
No one has ever listened to any of our podcasts.
I don't remember what's in these episodes by the time we finish them. If you ever wonder why the thumbnail and title is only tangentially related to the overall content of an episode, it's because I don't remember what the 3 hours were by the end.
This podcast is the equivalent of screaming for help into the void.
Yeah.
And it just happens occasionally.
But self-indulgently, I have a slideshow of, like, commissions and fan art of Marrow, and it's the 1-year anniversary today when we're recording this of the debut of that character and my coming out and the Legoshi video all in one go. So it's a clip show. I'm letting my OBS slideshow run as the visuals for this podcast on YouTube. And if you're on SoundCloud, I just wasted the last 30 seconds of your time. Get ready for more of that.
Nice.
That's just the norm.
Nice. To the 5 people listening on SoundCloud, you've made your bed, now sleep in it.
There's some of them. These podcasts get, like, I don't know, like 1,000 to 2,000 views on YouTube and like 200 on SoundCloud. It's like not there. Actually, these are bad. Actually, these are like 300 each. Looks like. Okay, it varies a bit. I don't know why it varies so much, honestly.
There's such a large platform for us to espouse controversial beliefs on.
There's no more passive of a platform for me than fucking a podcast platform, so I don't I don't choose which episodes to listen to. I just like, what's out now? Here we go. So I don't know why these are varying up and down so much. Where this one has 150, that one has 400. What happened? Do people selectively download podcast? Tell me your SoundCloud habits right now. Leave them in the comment section on SoundCloud. Fuck,
like and subscribe.
Wait, this isn't helpful at all.
So let's recap MFF really quickly. We went to MFF, which is the largest. Yeah, we went to the largest furry convention in the world in December, and it was a lot of fun. It was very big. There was a very large dealer's den. I got conned into buying a book that the author told me did not have a Kindle variant. And then the moment I got home, I looked on Amazon and it had a Kindle variant for 1/5 the price. But most
notably, in the first time I ever went into the dealer's den, which it's like an entire fucking like Sam's Club full of just indie artists selling booths, and fucking Stephanie keeps making fun of me or freezing Sam's Club as a reference point. But we were like, mission 1 was find Toaster a raccoon tail, which is hard because Toaster's persona is the wrong color for most people's raccoon standards for raccoons. The raccoon.
I'm not even I'm not like a sparkle dog raccoon either. I'm not brown. Like green. I'm just brown, which is the wrong color. Apparently,
no one makes brown raccoons. They will make gray raccoons. So I while we were looking for tails in this big crowd, just for a moment I looked at some books, like, oh, there's there's Braybird and all these other artists and stuff looking on the shelf. Come back and Toaster has a fursuit.
Yeah, I bought
escalated
a fursuit
really quickly.
I walked up to the Lemon Brat booth and I saw all of their fursuits, and there was this really cool ram fursuit that I wanted, and I reached down to grab it just to look at it, and someone snagged it. Like, I was literally reaching down for it, and someone grabbed it and immediately purchased it. And I was like, God damn it, if this is the pace that this con is going to go at and I can't even look at these things, I have to make a snap decision. So I bought a fursuit, and it's a partial. It's not like a full suit, but I like it a lot, and I've worn it many times since, and it was very expensive, but it was very worth it. So, yeah, that's just what MFF is like. That's what it is. If you want to buy a pre-made fursuit, you just got to go for it. And it's not a raccoon. It's not my persona, but it is a fun suit with a character.
It is a shield against being observed. Your favorite thing.
Yes. Exactly. My absolute favorite thing. And it's just cool. It's nice to be able to blend in with the crowd at a furry convention and meet people and be in what is effectively furry armor for, a weekend. And it did cost the entirety of my quarterly bonus when I bought it, but hey, that's fine. But it was good. It was a worthwhile purchase, and I enjoed it quite a bit.
I have never that's what MFF, that hard in my life.
Yeah, I still think back to it and I'm like, this is an expensive thing, but I guess I could resell it and recoup like 2/3 of the price, so it's fine. So it's fine. It's whatever. It's only down $1,000.
Isn't Lemon Brat that one very recognizable person I kept spotting all throughout LSVC? LVFC.
I missed the entirety of what you just said.
Isn't Lemon Brat that really recognizable person that I was spotting throughout the Las Vegas FurCon all the time?
Lemon Brat, the lady has like a lot of facial piercing. She was walking around with a dino most of the convention.
I kept calling her a different thing every time when I pointed her out to Stephanie, because that was all I remembered was the lemon part. So like, look, it's Lemon Drop. I'd never heard of this person until this fursuits entered our lives, and then I kept being told how high clout and important and totally recognizable this person is, and then people kept like, and it's true because you do walk down a hall and people are like, oh, Lemon Brat at your suit.
Yeah,
like you
at LVFC we were walking around and people would literally just be like, hey, Lemon Brat, what's up? And I'd be like, oh, hi. Like, it's not me, but
like, hello Lemon Brat, hello another Lemon Brat.
Yeah, it's interesting because like, I mean, I knew about them before I got the suit, but I didn't buy the suit from them because I was like looking for the clout of having one of their suits or whatever. I mean, the way that I think about it, like, I really like my suit and it's really nice and I like their style, but also like it's a pre-made. Like I am more attracted to custom made, like individualized fursuits personally, and I'm still going to get a Toaster full suit sometime, but like the allure to me was not like, oh, I'm gonna join the guild of Lemon Brat suit owners, because that would be weird to me. It's just like anyone could if they had the money, like you could just buy a suit.
You've joined the weird little cult.
Yeah.
It is.
So
it's
interesting.
There's actually a strange phenomenon where people take individual fursuit makers and their recognizability and treat them like they're some kind of like line that you've joined as like a community, which goes both ways. Like it's like for some reason it's weirdly a clout thing, and on the other side it's like weirdly, oh, you endorse that person, and you're like, what did they do? What are we talking about?
Now I want to be clear, I don't think Lemon Brat's ever done anything controversial. They're a very kind person, and I've spoken to them many times at cons. They always recognize me even when I'm out of suit, so it's like I'm always like, oh hi, like it's really nice to see you, I hope you're doing well. But yeah, I don't follow them on Twitter. I don't know anything about them anything like that.
You have no idea how many people lives they've claimed.
Yeah, no clue. I did go to a Lemon Brat photo shoot once, and there was like probably 40 suits there about, but they were also all local Californians. So I don't know if Lemon Brat is like just on the West Coast or something. I don't know.
That is quite a volume of suits to put out. God damn.
Yeah.
I guess you really you get into your groove eventually.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm largely forgetting a lot of MFF, but I definitely I got stopped and recognized like 6 or 7 times, which was a strange experience. Just it's just suddenly somebody calling out to you that you don't know, and at least one person Brew insists that. At some point, I was like walking, I don't know if it was in the hallway or somewhere else, but someone yelled like Lego Sheet Guy, and I didn't hear them or react in any way.
Oh,
and I don't know when this happened or who that was. I don't know.
I was in suit, so I couldn't hear them. But
and I don't know if they were reacting to me wearing a Lego Sheet shirt, or if it was that day, or if they recognized me specifically. But sorry, that guy.
Yeah.
But yeah, as a general rule, if you see us at conventions, you can just approach us. I'm more afraid of you than you are of me.
Yep.
Except that guy at Las Vegas FurCon, he was definitely more afraid of me than I was of him. He was very nervous, which is fine.
Well, one of the things I wanted to say about MFF is that like MFF is so big that it's like big and fast paced, and there's always things happening. So it is very easy to like randomly come up to some person and be like, hi, I'm interacting with you for literally 2 seconds, and then I will never see you again at the con. That's a very possible thing to happen.
But it's also so small, so that if anyone's even kind of recognizable, you might see them 12 times.
Yes,
like exactly. There are individual people that we waited next to get our badge, like that person in the Stitch onesie. And I recognized that person for the rest of the convention, despite never interacting with them or knowing who they are. And especially like after the dance competition, I was extremely aware of every competitor wandering around the convention and even outside. Like when I had my trek where I was like, I'm gonna go in the 0-degree weather on foot and just walk back to the hotel instead of going through the convoluted hallways. I was walking alongside and complimenting what the dragon dancer, the chubby dragon from the competition, because they were just everywhere all the time. Yeah.
There's also, I think, the fact that like we talk about MFF as being like the largest furry convention, right? But the amount of people in suit is actually like a lot. Like the proportion of suitors to non-suitors is actually pretty stacked in the favor of the non-suitors. Like not everyone has a fursuit. Like furry conventions are not.
No, most people
not
don't have a fursuit,
seas of fursuits,
but the fursuits are less of the minority than expected. They take space and are everywhere.
Yes,
and they also
but
tend
you
to
end
be
up.
the
I guess what I'm saying is like your eyes get attracted to the big colorful rugs that people are wearing.
Yeah. There's also like sort of like they sort of demand space, and people are like kind of taking photos and posing with them, and everyone else is kind of like shuffling along the walls. Yep. Something that stands out to me is that MFF, aside from the only place that feels designed for you to walk around in the entire convention is the dealer's den. There were some points where I went to the dealer's den just to not be frustrated existing as a human being, because all of the actual there's the there's the hallways the sky bridges that connect everything, which are just you're just walking in a line, and that's fine. But all of the lobbies of all the hotels that this place takes place in are so strangely shaped and have like jagged like corners in their floor space that you have to like go around like weird handrails to get to the like the escalators and the elevators, or like they have art pieces and wall dividers and things that just break up the space so strangely, especially in the most popular building, the Hyatt, I think. That's like that multi-floor one with that looks like it's like shaped like the Luxor a little bit, where it's got like all the wall ledge hotel rooms around the rim of the building going up forever.
Yeah, that's the Hyatt.
Everything about that building is not well made for what it's doing. like the upstairs area is with the bars and restaurants is a horrible shape for getting around, and the moment you add fursuiters taking photos in the middle of the open spaces, it gets much worse to get around. But then the moment you go downstairs, most of the ground floor is this convoluted series of ropes that they've set up just to try to create queues going in and out of the one elevator for the entire area, because that one elevator goes up and down between all the different floors and connects to a series of walkways that lets people walk to their hotel rooms on all the different floors. And you can just see that hotel you can see those elevators going all day, with their like they have glass walls, and you can just see like compressed fursuiters just squished into the glass, like going up and down the tube. It's incredibly tight. I kept going into that alcove that's between the real floor space and the elevators. There's like a little like dead end behind like these like almost like planters or whatever. I kept just going into those little dead ends and standing there with my phone and just kind of looking around, because it's the only place where I wasn't in someone's way. and so like whenever there was downtime, I would just kind of hang out there and see if I recognized anyone or if anyone recognized me. And so there's two cool experiences about just the overall thing. Like one was just when we landed and got in the hotel room and we're watching Hereditary, normal furry convention experience. I looked out the window and there was just, even though the convention wasn't even starting yet, there was just dozens of fursuits out in the streets of not Chicago just all the time. And there is like this like weight off your chest that happens a little bit when you're like, oh, I'm just in an overwhelmingly queer space, and it's not just inside the convention, but the entire surrounding several blocks are just like this. And I got a repeat of that at Las Vegas FurCon, where every time we went to any kind of every time we went into any of those like restaurants and so on, we were surrounded by people. Like there would just be people in fursuits casually, like at the German beer place and stuff. There was just like dancing fursuits. And when I went to Omega Mart after the whole convention was basically over, I spotted like several recognizable people, and including Lemon Brat, just kind of mixed into the group. And I'm like, which just implies there's a lot of people I don't recognize that are also furries that are at Omega Mart at the same time. And I'm like, this place is just cooler than normal. This is just a nice experience. But the other kind of neat experience was just like being in this fandom quietly for like 15 years and just building up this endless list of artists and names I recognize and so on. One of the most entertaining things about MFF was the hellish sky bridge that everybody hates, which it's infamous for being this like basically like mile-long stretch of sky bridges that goes between like 4 hotels. And so if you're on one of the hotels in particular, you have to go through all of them to get to like the registration building, for example. Or no, the Hyatt, I mean, is the last one. And it's hot in there, and it's just a long walk, and you're just going at the pace of everybody else. But the upside of it is that at furry conventions, everyone wears these custom badges that are art of their character and drawn by someone. And that, on one hand, like there's already just the fact that like that's a really cool like little cottage industry of like the overall like artists are supported by the fact that they can just rely on this market of like every time furry conventions come around, it's time to make a whole new batch of badges, not just for all the new people that have never had a badge, but also like people will just collect new badges for every FurCon and we'll just do that for fun. So that's like a nice income thing for those people. But it also means that I can just look at all these like randos, and like you're walking in the sky bridge, it's single file both ways. So you're just walking behind whoever you're stuck behind, and you just have an endless series of faces. Like every single walk, you pass like 200 or 300 people again. And so you get to just spot people. Like I spotted like 50 artists and like visual novel developers and so on that I recognize just casually. And it, like you get this sense of like, oh shit, all these people are in this one place all at once. And it makes this like this abstract online community feel like very like viscerally real and existent, like right here in a cool way. Like, and it's just like that's a neat experience.
Yeah, it's definitely a good time. And you know, in my experience, like people don't know this about me, at least in my modern incarnation, but like I used to compete in cosplay contests for like a decade and a half before I like even went off to college. Like I've been doing costuming since I was literally a child, at anime conventions and stuff. And it's like, it very much does feel like going into another world where like all of your friends are waiting for you in like a weird way, where it's like, all right, like I don't know, people who go to conventions a lot and who care about this thing, and it doesn't matter what kind of convention it is. It could be fucking tattoo conventions or reptile conventions or whatever. Like, it definitely makes the rest of your time in the real world feel like just time between conventions, if that makes sense.
It's very easy to see how there's this entire like subset of furries that specifically like basically takes going to almost every convention almost for granted, because of the fact that like it's where they're going to meet up with all these people all the time. Like at MFF, we got invited up to Sig Yin's. We got invited up to a room party to Smash. In that like Sig Yin and Snacks and some other people were up there, and they had an 8-player Smash Brothers setup and a lot of alcohol, and it had the customary like, here's the stack of fursuit heads on that one counter and so on. And we just hung out and talked about, like, people asked me about my video essay stuff. It's like, oh yeah, my boyfriend really loves your Annihilation video. Explain it to me so I can sound smart later. And and you just hang out and chat. And like, if you know a lot of people, you would just like cycle between all these different room parties for various motivated reasons. And then go down to the dealer's den, and just like, there's actually like it's funny because a normal like when I went to PAX for my first convention, it was like, here's the 500 panels that are competing with each other. Which one are you going to go to? Like, oh fuck, we got to get to the BioWare lead writer. We got to hear him talk about it, like what he does and stuff. But what conflicts with what about Mikey's panel? We got to get to Mikey's panel. And it's like, so it's like a big desperate thing to run between, and then in between you can go to the show floor, I guess. But the furry convention really is like, STD testing opens up at the beginning along with registration, and then then like when they're on the first full day, the artist alley and dealer's den open up, and then you kind of like there's panels, I guess, and no one really talks about them, but you can go to them, I guess. And then there's the dance competition, which is awesome. But I literally just didn't go to anything besides shopping around or hanging out the entire convention. Like we hung out with Enro and his friends almost the entire time. But like the whole thing was just like having a string of social engagements, or getting DM'd like, oh hey, we should go meet up in the lobby and so on, and like having your one chance to meet up with somebody, and then kind of cycling through those. That can keep you like just having this weird free floating like 4-day party essentially can keep people very busy, despite there not being any concrete like stuff happening at the con itself.
Yeah. Well, like furry conventions are very socially oriented in a way that other conventions aren't. Like, people don't realize this about them. So like the way that I feel like there's like a spectrum of conventions, right? There are expos, which are things like PAX, where there is a show floor and there are industry people there who are on a schedule to promote something. And then there are like fan conventions that are there to just spend time with other fans. And like every different kind of convention you can go to falls somewhere on that spectrum, right? And one is not better than the other, but like PAX is very far towards the expo, where you are like paying to go to an event to get a glimpse into an industry that you might not have visibility into. You're paying for the panels, you're paying for the expo hall. You don't really go to PAX to hang out with your friends. Granted, some people
get queer baited by a billboard that says hyenas, and then it's not anywhere on the show floor.
Yes, I did find out what game that was, by the way.
Yeah, it's eventually some bullshit. I think it's like either a looter shooter or a PvP game that features no hyenas. So it's basically the most evil thing ever made.
Someone is very angry about this.
The entire branding is a picture of a hyena, and the game features no hyenas. How could you do this to me, games industry? This is worse than battle passes.
I would say in terms of other conventions too, then you have things like tattoo cons, which are mostly just the big expo hall and then like meeting up with artists and getting tattoos. And then you have things like anime cons, which are sort of a mix of both. There's like a lot of fandom and cosplay aspects that have kind of run through the industry from the start, that of like people organizing them, trying to get together just to meet other fans and like bootleg things. But there's also a pretty heavy industry presence as well, where you get like voice actors and animators and stuff to show up to them. I think anime cons are like the good middle ground, but then all the way on the other side, furry conventions are literally just like, yeah, panels are like mostly an afterthought. The Dealer's Den and the Artist Alley are a draw, but really people are just here to party. Like that's really what it feels like. So, you know, furry conventions, I think if you are cool with just showing up and partying and hanging out with people. And when I say partying, I don't necessarily mean like drinking and dancing and stuff, but there is a lot of that. You can find something to do. But if you are going to a convention to like pay for the convention space, maybe furry cons are not for you.
If you're going to a furry convention, you should know somebody else that's there.
Yes, absolutely.
Because otherwise you'll be like some of the people we saw that like are just kind of walking in circles, shrugging for hours because they don't know anyone and they're afraid to meet anybody, and then they've trapped themselves in a social interaction, and now they're just kind of walking in circles in a fursuit and dying in the heat. Like I think the Night in the Woods Greg cosplayer we saw, I think he was just like alone, and it was just like a bummer.
Yeah. So, I mean, but this gets into, I guess this is a good segue into LVFC and like what makes a difference. So just quick timeline here. We went to MFF, then we went to PAX, then we went to MFF. And then after MFF in late January, early February, I can't remember exactly when it was, I went to FC, which is the furry convention in San Francisco. Further confusion.
A lot of people's favorite
con. It was not my favorite con. I had a very good time and I hung out with people and it was cool. But it also, I do not think, was a particularly well run or well organized convention because it was really big. But like, for example, they had panels on offer, but every panel I went to had technical difficulties. And sometimes the panel hosts didn't even show up, which was really weird. And the con felt really sparse because it was raining outside. So people were literally just hanging out in their hotel rooms partying rather than hanging out in the con spaces, which I get. That's a thing at every single con. But this is not me shitting on FC. FC was a fun con. It was a little bit overhyped for what it was. So when looking for other cons to go to, Las Vegas Fur Con obviously is just a few hours drive for me, and it's about a day's drive for Keith. So we were like, all right, let's go. And we went to Las Vegas, and this is the first year that Las Vegas Fur Con was happening. It was held at Alexis Park, which is a small on-strip resort. It is not the nicest hotel or the nicest grounds, and it's not very big, but it is modest and on the strip, and they would have us, which I think is the theme of Las Vegas Fur Con, is that it was a convention where the hotel was
tolerated
not sure. Yes, they were not sure about having a bunch of furries on the grounds. They were very, very cautious about what days the buyout lasted. They said, like, don't hang out in the hotel space, the common spaces, in your fursuits unless it's the weekend, because you don't have a full buyout on Thursday or Monday. You know, things like that.
I want to scare the normal
that
people.
was kind of, yeah. And they were like, don't scare the normal people. Exactly. And like, don't scare the people on the strip, because we are a hotel near casinos and we want people to gamble and buy stuff from us. Good news is the con ended up making way more money than projected for the hotel. So the hotel is probably going to be far more tolerant of us next year.
Yeah.
But because of this, Alexis Park is a very small space. The convention hall,
it was very strange.
Was like, yeah, like the convention hall itself is one building on the property, and that one building has like 5 rooms. It was literally like 3 or 4 panel rooms, a concert hall that was always empty, a dealer's den, and an artist alley. But the dealer's den and artist alley were like hardly the size of like a lunchroom in a school. Like they were not big. They were very, very small. And then there was an arcade that was mostly empty, but had machines along the walls. And we had a lot of fun in the arcade.
It was almost invisible. It was like a secret. That arcade was you have to take such a convoluted path to get to that arcade that it looked like you went through like a service hall at one point you weren't supposed to be in.
Yeah, you had to go behind all of the other rooms through a service hallway that like opened to outdoors. It was basically like the hallway that the outside of the hotel opened up to, so that like a food distributor could like bring their truck in and like bring the supplies to the kitchen or the cafeteria at the hotel. But you go to the end of this long hallway and there was like Con Ops and the arcade, and the arcade was great. They had My, they had U-Beat, they had a Guilty Gear cabinet, they had a Plus R cabinet, which was really cool. Persona 4 Arena as well.
DDR and
some
Taiko
DDR
drums.
Stuff. Initial D as well, which was kind of fun. But I mean, that was a good time. Don't get me wrong. But what I am trying to get at here is that the convention space was really small. And
it's
as
been
a result,
actively like it's been a trip going to 3 conventions over the course of about 6 months, and like checking populations. MFF was the biggest furry convention in history, but it was about 1/10 the size of PAX West, and then this convention, Las Vegas FurCon, was about 1/10 the size of MFF. So
yes,
rapidly dwindling populations, but in particular, this place was so different because MFF was like PAX was like almost hilariously like, this is extremely a space made for this exact kind of event all the time. And MFS was a little bit like, these are the people that put up with us, and here's a really awkward floor space for this massive event. And then a dealer's den that very much feels designed for that purpose. That was the only space that feels correct in MFF for what it's doing. Everything else is like chaos. This place,
well, the convention center at MFF feels like a convention center, whereas the hotels feel like hotels.
It's just the fact that people are always in the Hyatt and so on, which feels like a horrible location for what it's being used for. But the like going between these places, like the giant convention center place and then the convention hotel hybrid place, going to this place in Vegas now, this like place that self-describes as a resort location, was a very different experience, because it was like being at one of those like even though it's in Vegas, it felt like being in one of those like oceanside California hotels that's like all open air. So like it was the type of hotel space where you leave your hotel room and you are now looking at a no ceiling open air, like sort of like enclosed but still open to the air, like hallway on a second floor with a railing and shit that you see across the other line of rooms across the way. So you're already kind of outside instantly, and you walk out of your building and you're at a pool, and these like paved rocky pathways that weave back and forth between green little hills and so on, like that kind of landscape, which is super different compared to Las Vegas, compared to MFF or PAX or anything that I would think of as a convention. So it very much was like, here is this outdoorsy hotel location that was just bought out entirely by furries, and so it was just full of furries hanging out in pools and partying on the rooftop and stuff like that. But it was an incredibly different atmosphere. But like
it definitely had like we took over an apartment complex feeling. Because you're walking in this place and there's like little terraces and stuff in between the buildings. And I mean, it's literally just hotel rooms, but they're also like that motel style of like facing the road or like facing the inside the courtyard. So really 95% of Las Vegas FurCon was just hanging out in the courtyard and at the pool with other furries, because there just wasn't enough at the con to sustain people's attention. It literally just became a furry pool party at a certain point.
Like, and like we talk about it like having 10% of the population of MFF, like only having like 1,500 people or something, but like it felt even sparser than that, because very quickly, everyone, like, it was like people were clearly partying in their rooms and stuff like that, or going out into Vegas and so on. Because like if you went out to a restaurant anywhere, you saw fursuits, or you might even recognize people in person if you knew who they were. because they were all distributing into the city, and people were definitely partying in their rooms. One of the most funny, awkward things was this experience where like they had a rooftop party, like DJ, and a competing indoor DJ. And so at one point we were on the roof and we were at our table and drinking, and some of us were dancing, and you look over at the DJ and there was like it got to a point where there's like 10 people dancing over there, and Zach and Stephanie for I guess I haven't set this up, but Stephanie was at this party. Stephanie was at this FurCon with us. They had just used the restroom downstairs. Like, oh yeah, there's way more people downstairs, and so we all like get up and go downstairs to look at the dance floor downstairs. It's completely empty. There's one guy. There is the literal lone digger dancing at the DJ, and nobody else in the entire. So it's like this very large dance, like very large open area with a DJ and a dancer by them. Then all the way at the back of the room, there's kind of a few people just kind of standing around, and like the sound people. And it's like an incredibly vacant room. But then we walk out of that space, past the pools, into like and through like the overall hotel areas, which is like 15 separate buildings of rooms because it's all like spread out in the open air and shit. And as we are approaching the back of the hotel complex, music starts getting louder instead of quieter, because there's this one building that's entirely parties, and in particular we walked into this one room that was just that was the primary source of the sound, was just this DJ that had a better overall like music and sound setup than the official ones, and the room was completely full of people in a way that clearly eclipsed both of the existing dance events that were actually being held by the convention.
That was the best dance at the con.
That was an experience.
It was great to just walk in there, and me, Zach, Brew, and Stephanie were just like dancing, and then we turn around and Keith is just gone.
Yeah, like, I was there for about 30 seconds and was like, wow, I hate college room party vibes. And I just walked all the way back to my hotel room and laid down. It had been a long day. We went to like
that was at like 2 a.m.
6
at that
different
point,
things.
So.
Yeah. I just
disappeared. That was a very fun party.
It was that I leaned into Stephanie, was like, I'm gonna go outside, because I immediately hated being in that room. I did not like anything about the sensory experience. So I walked outside, walked downstairs. I walked up and down the ground floor. I walked up and down the top floor, and then walked up and down the ground floor, just looking at all the rooms, just to see, just kind of people watching and see what rooms were open to do a thing. Like there was clearly like stuff where it's like, here's a whole like red lit room and somebody in a certain getup at the door, and what's going on in there, and definitely like smoking rooms, and like there's a few where I would see just an open door, and there was just like a folding card table that was just vacant in the middle of an empty room with stark lighting, and it was like strangely threatening. And I went, but at some point I'm just like, there's literally nowhere to sit down anywhere around here, and my hips hurt, and I'm just unhappy. so I just walked back to the hotel room and laid down in bed, and I was in my head I was just thinking I was gonna wait and to see when you guys moved on to something else or something, but then I think everyone kind of just called it for the day eventually because it was late.
Yeah, I think at that point I momentarily got really nervous because I put my hands in my pockets and didn't feel my wallet, and I was like, oh shit, I dropped it when I was dancing. So I did a quick loop around before I realized, no, I just left it in my hotel room.
Yeah.
And then I went to bed. But I think everyone else pretty much called it at that point. Zach was really tired. And Stephanie said something. She was like, I'm thirsty, I need to go find water. And then she just like left.
Everyone split up.
Then, yeah,
I felt bad because I lost communication, and Stephanie like was bothered that she didn't know where I was at the hotel room, but it's because I was like, oh, everyone's together, right? And I texted the group chat, but Stephanie just continually does not get Discord on her phone despite it being an obstacle all the time. I don't know why. And I'm like, oh, they're all together, so like I'll tell Griff this, and he'll. I'm telling Griff and Brew and Zach this, so it'll reach Stephanie too, but it didn't, because you guys had already like splintered in that time or something.
Oh yeah, well, we had all split up. I think Brew and Zach got drinks. I think they stayed out for like another 30-40 minutes or something, but I went straight to bed and that was great. But I woke up that morning. I guess this is also burying the lead that I was pretty drunk at that point. So when I woke up the next morning, I was Fortnite dancing on purpose.
In fursuit.
In fursuit. It was fun.
As opposed to Fortnite dancing on accident, like, oops, I tripped and I Fortnite danced everywhere.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, and I just want to put it out there to all the viewers that despite Keith's shift to becoming a Fortnite content creator as of yesterday, I have never played a game of Fortnite in my life, and I don't think
You're a Fortnite poser.
Yeah, so I'm a Fortnite poser. No, but I was having a good time, and I woke up and I wasn't hungover. I was just really fucking tired. And so I stayed in bed until noon on the second day. I was like, whatever. I don't care. I'm having a good time.
And
yeah.
That was the second day, the first day of the con, but the second day. But the opening was wild because we were I had not planned anything for this convention, up to including not planning anything with Zach or even being that conscious of the fact that he was going to be there. I think I heard about it like weeks ago once and didn't think that much beyond that. Like oh, was another person that I might spot there or something. I didn't realize that you guys have been like planning with him or something, like continually or something.
Yeah, but yeah. Well, a lot of people there were actually a lot more people planning on coming that bailed at the last minute. And I wouldn't say I was really planning with them, but Brew was a lot more looped into that stuff than I was. So he knew everyone who was planning on coming. I mean, I think there was a point when there were like 5 or 6 other people that were thinking about showing up that didn't. So
like we were arriving in town with no particular plan about to do like the night before, like before even getting like badges or anything. And I get like group chat messages about like we're supposed to go, like there's some bar having a furry night or something. And so it was like a place in Area 15, which is the same building that has Omega Mart and other stuff, which I didn't know until we arrived there. You forgot about the bar.
Yeah, I completely blanked out on this part.
Yeah, it was like a barcade, which itself was the single biggest furry party I saw the entire convention, was this off-site location place before the actual convention even started. But that place was so completely full on both floors with definitely gay people and definitely a lot of furries, although it's hard to tell which people were just if people were regulars or people there specifically for the convention. But amusingly, like it was such a it set the tone for the entire weekend, because the space was trying so hard to be a furry space, and it was overall succeeding for the people, but also the staff were not ready for what they were putting up with.
Yeah.
So like we enter this place where there's a bunch of people in pup masks and masculo cod pieces and actual fursuits, and all of the flat screens on all of the walls are in an alternating pattern of playing. They're always playing 2 different like relatively high production value fursuiter like music videos from some YouTube channel that you can probably find pretty easily, but I don't know by name. And it was just looping.
Just Google fursuit music video. You'll find they were like it was literally on a loop.
And like those videos were looping between just like slow motion fursuiters posing in public versus like light kink stuff and so on. And that was just kind of entertainingly looping the entire thing while people are milling between arcade games and dancing by this one DJ. And there's the what mortified Zach is that they had a custom they had a separate furry menu on the drink menu.
I forgot about the furry drinks.
Yeah, they had the regular drink menu, then under that they had a clearly like an event like furry drink menu that had like Vormy Daddy and Stinky Swirl and stuff like that. Like all these like just horny drinks that themselves had like they had icons, they had art, which I probably didn't have the rights for or whatever. But fucking Zach walks up to the bartender and just asks for a Vormy Daddy, and then just gets a blank stare for several seconds, and then the guy looks up at the menu and just sighs.
Very funny. Okay, I want to illustrate something here about this though that I think demonstrates like the level of effort versus the level of competency that was on display here. So the arcade did a very good job of like catering to the furries, and again tolerating the furries. But it was clear that they did their research to try but not to understand. So the drink that Stephanie and I fixated on was the Stinky Swirl, which was basically like lemon. I don't remember the exact drink, but it was a lemon and strawberry drink. Okay, so it's a Stinky Swirl. When I hear the term Stinky Swirl, I think of like a poop emoji. So I imagined, they're trying to be kinky and into furry stuff. And I guess that's what people are into. That's fine. But then you get a lemon and strawberry drink. So, okay, it's supposed to be pee maybe. But why is there blood in the pee? And that's the level of like just sensory overload this bar was going through. So you walk up to this dude at the bar and you're like, "Hi, I'll have a Stinky Swirl, please," in your full fursuit. And he's probably thinking like, "Oh, this raunchy motherfucker, this weirdo furry asshole is up here asking me for some weird ass drink." But then you get a drink that does not match the description of what it was supposed to be.
There's so many interpretations too, because stinky is like this weird term of endearment at this point.
Yep.
For other reasons that aren't kink related, basically. Although there's musk stuff, but that's not even necessarily what they mean usually. But yeah, Stinky Swirl with a yellow drink implies water sports. So
yeah,
like,
exactly.
What are they going for here?
So you just have this awkward interaction, this like kink loaded interaction with this poor, like masculine, probably single dad bartender who's just like, "Hey man, are you gonna tip or are we gonna sit here and just wait this awkward moment out?" Like, so it was just a weird experience. It was fun though. I mean, in the barcade, the actual arcade part upstairs was pretty sick.
And the things were real mixed too. Like they had the Stinky Swirl, the soft Samoyed, which is I guess that is a dog at least. There's one that's just called Apple Jacks and does have a picture of a character.
That was the one I had.
I don't know if that's a reference to a character, or I don't know why it's called Apple Jacks, but it does have a furry icon. I think
Applejack is a pony from My Little Pony, right?
Yeah, but that's not the picture.
I've never watched that show.
The picture is like a yellow wolf with a mohawk, maybe. And like one's just fluffiest Mai Tai, which is just another wolf. And then For Me Daddy just has a fucking Vora picture as its icon. It goes back and forth so rapidly between like kink reference stuff and just like, I don't know, Applejacks. What's that mean? I can't tell what this drink even is.
It was a fun time. I mean, that was a cool little spot.
Like Zek just showed up with Harlow, his fursuit that he made, and
he made it himself.
It looked like a professionally made thing. It's like it's like this big old I don't remember if it was like a maned wolf or a fox or what, but it was very detailed and like proportional and sturdy looking, and it had like these giant ears and piercings and like custom like props for the piercings that are their own like thing that has to be crafted, and had like opposable tongue and all this other stuff going on. I think it had a magnetic tongue so he could curl it up against the side of the lip. He had 3
magnetic tongues he could swap out to have different lengths.
That was elaborate. That was just a seriously impressive fursuit had to just bring out and then be like, "Oh yeah, I made this."
Yeah, Zek is a very good cosplayer. Like his cosplay portfolio is pretty impressive. So once I realized that, I was like, "Oh, okay, like it makes sense that his first fursuit would be very high quality." But yeah, that was fun, and it kicked off the con to a good start, I think.
Yeah, it set the tone for us sitting in circles and drinking while me not being able to hear people half the time, and try hard branding mixed with staff members that are confused about what they're going through right now.
Yes,
which is basically every day of everything we did.
Yeah, we did. I mean, it was. I think that kind of gets to the vacation resorty feeling of this particular con, is that most of the time the main thing to do was day drink. Like that was really all there was to do. So, at one point, Stephanie, me, and Zach and Keith were hanging out by the pool, and we hung out with Scoot, which was fun. But Zach, me, and Stephanie were just drinking, like drinking in the pool, waiting for the day to continue so we could go drink on the roof.
We were just kind of killing time and finding things to do in the meantime. And it's was it Scott Henderson, aka Scoot from YMS?
Henson.
Is it Henson? I literally looked.
You're the one who's forgetting whose name now.
I opened his Twitter account, looked at the word Henson, and read Henderson anyway. I'm literally missaying the word right in front of me, like I'm Tommy Tellerico. No, he reached out to me in advance when he saw that I was going to the convention, and I was like, oh yeah, we should sync up at some point, and we ended up meeting up at the pool and just hang out for a while. Easy guy to talk to. We just kind of chilled for a while. That's what most of it is. Like that's what happens at these conventions, is like you kind of have a list of people potentially that you want to hook up with at some that sentence means something else, that you want to meet up with at some point, and in some cases that is a list of people they want to hook up with, and you just kind of like wing it. You just have to, you either have Telegram or Twitter DMs or something. You just have to like just kind of keep in contact with people and eventually sync up with people, because everyone's just kind of bouncing around. Given that so many people are in fursuit in conventions, people just have blackout for like hours at a time where they don't respond to any messages because they're like using a phone is actively difficult. So it can be rough. Like there was moments where we were trying to sync up with Enro's group at MFF, and sometimes there would be like a 3-hour moment where everyone almost kind of maybe connecting soon, anytime now, here we go, dinner plans maybe, and it'd be like a 4-hour process to plan dinner sometimes with enough people. It can be chaos in that way. It was a good time.
I think we did a pretty good job of
plan there was.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, I think we did a good job just kind of making do and taking things slow and just having a good time hanging out with people. I mean, that's really what the con was too. Ultimately, at the end was just like an excuse to hang out with people. Yeah. Granted, I think at this point I'm very ready for taking Stephanie to MFF next. I can't wait to throw her into the deep end with that one.
Oh my god! But every single day was like me being sure we had nothing to do that day, and what are we gonna do? Like, what are we gonna do with today? And then having stuff to do the entire time. Like inevitably, the entire day would be busy. Although for the last day on Sunday, we just fled the premises.
Yeah, we left the con and did escape rooms.
Yeah. We did 2 escape rooms at the basement, and then we did the It escape room experience thing, which is more of like a theatrical, like theme park haunted attraction, house. Essentially. Yeah, it's like a haunted house with a puzzle in each room, just one puzzle. But really, like stuff that was on site, believably real looking. Yep. Like there was obviously everything was like clean and like super glued and like had this laminated feel if you like tried to like inspect it too closely, but like it was a very elaborate series of sets that were used very inefficiently, and that like you would literally like be in a room for like only like 5 minutes at a time sometimes and then move on to the next one. So it was wild how elaborate each one was for that purpose. And the only issues I really had is that like they're trying to push you through and they cannot fail you because it's a long linear experience, so there is no time limit, and they can't like necessarily like actively fail you the way normal escape rooms do, so there isn't really a challenge there. But what they do to set that off is that they have a human actor with you basically at all times, and that actor is basically like doing the modern AAA video game thing where they just like every few minutes to kind of give you the next hint, like, oh, what have you found so far? What about that over there? Like they're like fucking Atreus or whatever from God of War prompting you to like solve the puzzle.
What if we move this crank right here? Maybe the windmill will move.
Yeah, and then I also just got really tired of breathing in smoke machine air because that got rough.
The FX smoke was a little rough.
Like
I feel like I coughed the rest of the time.
Yeah. Then when we finished that, you went to do go to a Cirque du Soleil show. So me and Stephanie went off and did Omega Mart, which is this like absolutely wild just this absolutely wild like they set up like a fake grocery store where all of the products are strange parodies, and the closer you look the stranger they get, and then as you get deeper into the store, just absolutely nonsensical stuff is set up until you eventually will find one of many portals that takes you into like the back rooms, essentially, where you stumble into what is essentially like a world from Myst, where it's a completely alien space, but it's full of like human researchers, like rooms with normal documents of them reacting to this weird ass shit. So it's very much like the Uru MMORPG, not RPG, but the Uru game for Myst that's like originally an MMO, but then discontinued and became a really hacked up single player game. Like it was that exact vibe of like how that was full of like documents and normal human researcher like evidence that they were there because it's empty. But that place itself had like a combination of like actors wandering around that exist in this world, but then just the countless people trying to experience it. It's full of like strange attractions and gimmicky like toy things, but then also like videos that will just play like in universe, but like noticeably like Adult Swim vibe videos, like those that one. That very specific,
it has
surreal, like
Devolver Digital press conference,
unedited footage of a
bear stuff, yeah,
like that specific kind of strange, surreal horror stuff, or like that one YouTube video with the naked Garfield caveman or whatever the fuck, like that kind of.
Oh yes, lasagna cat.
Yeah, it's all like that kind of stuff going on.
It's very ARG influenced. I think
even
there were
like people
inside of Mind or
around,
Nexpo
like,
or something
to,
did a video about it once.
There were like very excited people interacting with NPCs and having like the full. It made me realize what that one like Jenny Nicholson did a video on this one theme park that just completely has shit the bed ever since it tried to come into being, and its final form is just like a series of actors just kind of like trying to play out quest lines, but it's kind of incomprehensible to anyone but the most hardcore people that go there all the time. But but Omega Mart had like the version of that felt comprehensible. It's like, oh, this place is full of like, it's like you could walk around Myst and meet like the characters in Myst in real time, and they'd be there for reasons that make sense, and they can actually interact with you and play their character and lore and so on. And so there's like a version of that actually felt like it was accomplishing something. And there was some very excited people trying to get down to the bottom of this. And there's like genuinely secrets. Like we spent 3 hours there and we were still discovering all of the different passages between the Omega Mart itself and like the back rooms areas. And there kept being more somehow. To the point where there was some parts where we're like, okay, I think I have a good idea of what this entire space is and what it's shaped like, and I understand, and I think I have a mental map, and we're probably done here. And then we like crawled into a fucking fireplace and did a rope climb up a cave that was very vertically diagonal and came out into another door upstairs. Like, I don't know how to even fit this here. What the fuck? And like one of our last discoveries was the t-shirt. One of our last discoveries was the t-shirt staircase. I'm like, what the?
Oh yeah!
God damn it! How is this still here? I thought we were done.
It's awesome. I guess the last thing to mention is that Zek and Stephanie got tattoos in Vegas together.
They got tattoos. That was part of our escape from the convention day. Is we went to 2 escape rooms, got tattoos, and went to Omega Mart. 3 escape rooms. I thought they were gonna get matching. For a second there, I thought I was about to get like peer pressure into like a 5-part matching tattoo, but it was just the 2 of them got completely separate tattoos in parallel. But they're like emotionally bonded tattoos, which is quite a thing when for someone like they met that event Like Stephanie had never heard of Zach until Sunday, Thursday.
Yeah, that was Thursday. Yes.
I'm very jealous of that kind of spontaneity. I wish I could do something like that.
I'm people that just do stuff are wild to me. I don't know how people just do stuff.
We have a wild Andrew now.
I have to panic about it for months.
I've arrived.
There's an Andrew.
Hello,
here.
Andrew.
Hello. Yeah, no, I'm the same way. Like it takes me, it took me like months to get this tattoo, and only because of like someone dying, where I was like, yeah, I guess I'm motivated to do this now. Like,
yeah,
like it was. It's just like a lot of work.
There are absolutely people who showed up to this convention, had sex with 7 people, and had a tattoo on a whim, and then they went home. Like that was.
You're just don't put Zach on blast like that.
I did. You did. That's you. You're the one calling him out.
I am the one calling him out right there.
You did it. You got a tattoo?
No, our friend Zach. Our friend Zach had a good time. I wish I was that adventurous. I wanted a tattoo really bad, and I was so close to spending a problematic amount of money on one at that convention, but I am glad that I did not, because it would have been better for me to actually sit and plan something.
See, that's loser talk.
I know. I should have just Carpe DM'd it and gotten a tramp stamp. Oh well.
Everyone's experiencing those conventions on a different level than I am.
It kind of I think that kind of covers pretty much the whole con. There really isn't too much more to talk about. I mean, other than the fact that we ate at a bunch of restaurants and they were all pretty good, and we all got really drunk, which was good. I guess technically that was the drunkest you've ever been in your life.
Yeah, I had like 4 mixed drinks per day, which is unusual. My first one was like a strawberry champagne,
so mellow.
And it was really all like a step down from there. Like they were mostly getting progressively worse. Stephanie ordered me the worst drink of the weekend when she had me get like that, like was it like a blackberry and like chocolate or something?
Oh, the white chocolate raspberry drink, or black cherry white chocolate drink. Yeah.
And like one of the funnest drinks was that Omega Mart has a secret bar. That's not that secret, but it's a secret enough that when I mentioned it on Twitter, people were like, they have a bar there, because they hadn't found it. But it's funny because it's a bar where behind the bartenders is just a series of windows where you just watch the people that are walking around Omega Mart. And they have like gimmicky drinks, like the ads for the drinks are like, one of them is just like a bottle of cleaning fluid is like the ad for the drink that's playing, and like one of them, like they have like they blow a bunch of bubbles and like stack them when they're making it. The one that I ordered was a recreation of that one type of like orange cream popsicle that you can get. The one that's like orange on the outside and cream on the inside, that's like really popular. It was a drink recreation of that, but with vodka. And that was like,
oh, that's pretty good.
And it was very faithful. And Stephanie had one that had like, it wasn't an M-berry, but it was some other kind of thing adjacent to an M-berry that like rewrites it, like fucks with your taste buds when you bite into it. So they recommend like you drink part of the drink first, then you have this thing, and then you drink the rest of the drink, and it's a different drink now because this thing's like fucking with you.
That's cool.
And
that is cool.
That was just a fun drink idea.
Andrew, have you ever done Omega Mart?
No, when we were in Vegas, we didn't do Omega Mart. We ended up doing mostly the what is it? It's like there's like a weird shopping complex filled with containers. It's made out of shipping containers.
Oh, so there's like that's cool.
Yeah, it's got this like giant 20-foot praying mantis in front that spits fire. It's really interesting. But yeah, we were close by to there, and so we mostly did that, and then we ate at like a haunted pizza place. We ate at like a haunted pizza parlor. So the pizza crust is made with black dough, so it looks burnt.
Cool.
But it's actually like regular. It's like great theming. It had like a bunch of arcade games in there, a bunch of like terrifying dolls and statues of like horror villains. Cool place. You
would love Omega Mart. I think you'd be really into that place.
I remember watching the videos for Omega Mart, because Omega Mart I think started as like one of those like "Don't touch me, I'm scared" kind of
there's a
series.
whole online ARG component to it.
Yeah. And so I do remember seeing a lot of those in the beginning of it existing. And so I remember seeing like, oh, I like this. This is the kind of stuff I'm into. And then it's like, oh, this is a real place. I was like, oh, well, maybe one day. But we didn't really have time when we were in Vegas. But yeah.
Yeah.
Like a bonus theme for the weekend was us getting forgotten by restaurants.
That was the thing that happened
over again. Because like
every single place we ate at forgot about us multiple times.
Yeah, we went to a breakfast place at one point, which was good, but I think that was the morning of the escape room, so we had like a countdown mentally of like, okay, we need to get this done with by this point, and they just didn't put our ticket on for an entire cycle and just served other people first for a while before getting around to us, and then we had one time where we went to the hotel breakfast place because we kept hearing about the breakfast place. So Stephanie and I got in line and we were like, hey, anybody wants to meet up with us in the group chat? And Brew ended up coming up to meet up with us, and we get a seat and we order coffee while we're waiting for Brew. And then when I actually get the menus, we realized like that despite the fact that we were standing outside for like 20 minutes waiting for a table, and there was a physical like menu like standee that was the breakfast menu. When we got seated, they were no longer doing breakfast, so we couldn't order breakfast, which was the whole reason we sat down there. So we just kind of awkwardly finished our coffees, and we didn't want to order their lunch menu because once the breakfast menu is over, it's just the shitty. It's just the bar food menu from the shitty bar next door that we were already at yesterday and decided not to order at. So we just awkwardly were like, yeah, no, we're just gonna have coffee. And so I kept waiting for him to give us the check for the coffee so we can pay for the coffee and tip him and stuff. And he just kind of grimaced at us and never came back for like the next like 10 minutes until we eventually just kind of awkwardly left because the server would just not come back to us. And then we went to this place that served it was called Pies and Fries, I think. Or they served poutine and pizzas. And
okay, I'm interested.
All of us had poutine except for Stephanie, because Stephanie can't have gravy because that's a meat product. So Stephanie,
gravy is?
I think that's what you said.
Gravy's made of meat.
Yeah.
What the hell's in gravy? I thought gravy was just like, I don't know.
We all order our poutine and finish it while Stephanie is still waiting for her pizza. I think we all are finished eating for like 10 minutes before Stephanie finally gets her pizza at the end, and awkwardly she just packs into a box in the car, and tries to eat in the car while we're going around because it arrived so incredibly late. So it's 3 separate times where we were forgotten by the servers or ignored by the servers in some way, and we're just like, do we do something? What's going on? Four times. Because on the way there, I went to a pizza place with Stephanie, and they had a thing where they had like these s'mores little like cookies. They had it was like a big chunky fist-sized s'more soft cookie setup, and the idea was that they're supposed to put it in the pizza oven like alongside your pizza, and it says on the menu like ask us to heat it. We go along the assembly line. Like I mentioned I asked for the s'mores thing to the first lady that's serving us and setting up our pizzas, because it's like a Subway style like construct your pizza thing, and I also say it again at the cashier. And then when we're served our pizzas, they never serve me the s'more thing, and they just somehow all of them collectively ignored me on the s'mores thing. And then when I bring that up, they just kind of hand me one cold, and they don't charge me for it. And I'm just like, they never did the thing. So that was like, was another like setting the tone for the weekend. It was like, here's a mini version of what's going to happen 3 more times. Is these like strange server interactions where it's hard to just follow through with ordering a thing and getting the thing.
I guess that kind of segues into the last thing to talk about, which is the very, very last place we ate before we all left. We had this. So Keith and Stephanie and me and Brew were like, all right, we want breakfast. at noon on Monday. Like, where can we go? The con's over. And Stephanie and Keith picked some place. I can't even remember what it was called. The front porch or something, maybe.
I think it's
front
called
yard.
The Yard.
The
maybe?
Yard.
Okay.
And we're driving around Vegas, and there's a ton of construction. We can't figure out how the fuck to get in here.
Yeah.
And we find out that it's like it is a restaurant, like a farm to table restaurant in a really rundown, smoke heavy off strip casino. Like the kind of casino that you see on the side of the road that you would never stop at, where you're like, why does anyone play here? Why don't they just go to Vegas and play on the strip?
Yeah.
And so we end up going in there though, and it is legit the best food we ate at the entire con. It was
also
so good.
Aside from the glaring sun in some angles as it moved, it was also just the nicest like space.
Yep.
Which was funny because we had to
craft brew pub kind of like it was awesome.
It was like a very like modern, new looking kind of building that they often try to make for restaurants nowadays, and it's very open air and tall and had floors and everything. And it was funny specifically because we just looked up anything nearby, and it was always a struggle to like agree on a thing. So we just kind of just made a call and like, oh, this place is only like around the corner, fuck it. But it was so hard to find because all of the obvious turns were blocked by construction, and then so both of us had to loop around the entire block separately when we were trying to discover this place, only to then like kind of give up. I just kind of gave up and pulled into the parking lot of the casino before it, which turned out to be the right call. And you had to like loop around behind the casino, park in this parking lot that's past a bunch of like weird reserved and like staff parking spots, then walk up through an unrelated looking archway into this like this dark old looking casino, to then walk through that to a weird side door that then opens up to this massive, glorious, open air, brightly lit, beautiful, clean like brunch hangar that just does not aesthetically or in any other way like look like it has anything to do with the business that it's clearly attached to and you have to go through to get there. It's just so confusing of a location.
Yeah. I did something that's funny too, because I imagine it's like again, that's also a precursor to Omega Mart, right? It's like Nightmare, like you go through something that seems inconspicuous and turns out to be like, oh, where am I? This is nice.
Yeah.
The liminal casino.
I did something similar like that in Prague, where we were walking past this like really ornate church, and behind it there's like this tiny dinky little alleyway, like it fits like one person to walk through, and it was like, yeah, we're gonna go down here and eat. And I was like, there's nothing down here. This is like where peasants would die in the middle of nowhere. Like, what are you talking about? And we'd go through there, and there's like this tiny little door, like the small at the end of this alley, tiny door. You go through it, and it goes out into this huge, like, not huge, but like a very large greenhouse. And that's where you eat. You have tea, I guess, essentially. But it's like a little bistro inside of a greenhouse in an alleyway behind this like magnificent church. It's like so many steps to find this little place, but it's so like nice once you get there. You're like, oh, wow, this is beautiful. Like there's green everywhere. The sun comes in. Like, wow, this is nice compared to like every other business. And it's like immediate vicinity somehow. What is this? How did you get here? What did you like? It's weird. But it's funny to hear that it's like
you have a good time in Prague?
In the middle of nowhere. Yeah, it was it's weird going to old cities or like ancient. I guess I can call it ancient, right? When was it made? Like probably 1600s. I don't know when Prague was born.
Would you say that Prague
way earlier
rocked?
than that?
Actually, I guess yeah, you're right. There is a lot of rock buildings. That is true. A lot of stone
God
buildings.
damn it!
Yeah.
Prague was founded in the 8th century. Just wanted to
That's
put
not
that
a
out.
real number.
Oh, okay.
Correct for all the angry Europeans in chat right now.
Oh, all right. So then, really old. Look, my country was born in the 1700s. Everyone else is around that age, as far as I'm concerned. So Prague, ancient city, I guess, has okay. I'm gonna piss off Europeans again. Has not very. I like Prague, but one thing I don't like about Prague is I don't like how some of the architecture is new and some of it is like archaically Dark Souls, and I don't like that it mixes with one another because it looks. look, Prague looks like Disneyland to me, and that's like probably the most insulting thing you can say to a European.
This real life location looks like this video game location based on the real life location.
But that's the thing. I don't think Disneyland's based on this. It's just that because of Disneyland's entire theming, right? It's got comical like castles and stuff in the background, but then you walk down like American Main Street to get there. Like it's got these weird elements to it that you can see and like, oh cool, there's Spaceland next to Fantasyland. All right. Like you can see these elements blend just enough that your brain goes like, this is weird. It's like we're clearly in a fake place. And like Prague has that problem where it's like there's this monolithic, beautiful, giant cathedral, and then there's like this silly little apartment building in front. I'm like, what the fuck? What is this? What is this, Walt Disney's home in front of the giant castle that he built behind him? What is this weird building here? It shouldn't be here. And like there's all these like really old, beautiful buildings mixed with these like relatively new art, like fancy buildings. Like there's a building that was supposed to look like a lady dancing, but it's next to this ancient building that has a guy's face painted on it because he owned the building. Like what? Like what? These two just don't blend very well together. But it's really cool to see. I really liked the giant bridges. There's like these giant long bridges that span across, because I guess otherwise how would you reach the other side of Prague? And so it was really nice. Like you walk across these bridges, and it's mostly just a people-only bridge for one of them. I guess you could fit a car in there if you were like rude, but it's got like all these statues on it, and all these statues are like, again, ancient, 8th century, sure, probably. And but they're slowly like I don't know when anything.
I guess like, people keep telling me that. Whatever.
People keep telling. I don't know. I can't prove it, but
I could choose to believe them. But what's the fun of that?
It's boring that way. I prefer to say
I'm a Prague skeptic.
But they have these like these fancy statues that are all, of course, religious based, because this entire country is just religion, and but they're like slowly replacing them because they're obviously time is wearing these beautiful statues down, and so they're like, well, we need to save these things, so they're putting like replicas in their place. And so there's like this part of the bridge where you can go to, and it's like, oh, beautiful, that seems different somehow. And it's like the material is different, and it's good enough. Like it looks pretty good for a sculpture, but you could tell it's clearly not accurate. You could tell that like something's off about it compared to the one next to it, which is like, oh my god, this is like art. And you look and you're like, okay, that's good. It's not like whoever made this good, but it's good enough. And so I don't know where the new one, or like where they're putting them. They didn't have like a museum or anything that was like, come see the statues from the bridge we stole. They didn't like have a museum for that. So I don't know where they're putting them. I guess in storage, just putting them in a shed and putting a blanket over it, and like, just save them or something. But there's a lot of that. I appreciated that there's like so many of these elements, like statues and ornate parts of buildings that just get remained. Like next to, we were walking past a place, and they gutted out the outside or the inside of an entire structure, but kept the wall. So like you walk past this building, and it's got like the whole ornate, beautiful outside, and then the inside's just hollow. They just completely hollowed it out so they could remake it into living quarters. Like that's crazy. That the amount of effort to go into to reserve that kind of history is just impressive to me, because you don't see that here. Yeah. We don't really have that much history in the U.S. like that, but we certainly don't preserve it that way either. We usually are just like, this isn't modern aesthetics, and we just bulldoze it down and like build a modern building in front of it.
The other thing is we have two extremes in the U.S. where it's like either it's gone or it's preserved the exact same way it was originally, and we make no changes to it, and things have to build around it, and that's it. There's no in between.
And so that's why it's like, I'm not trying to be insulting when I say it looks like Disneyland, but it does look like that because they retain a lot of, they keep so much of the old history there, and then they have to, but obviously they have to build stuff to keep it going, right? Like Prague is. So
you go into this building that looks like it was built in the 1700s, and on the inside it's like a really fancy bathroom with a hair dryer, hand dryers and stuff. Yeah.
It's just like that, and you're like, this is so weird. It's like It's great. I love looking at the old buildings. Like I love old architecture, but it's just so funny to walk into a building and then just suddenly just be like, oh, this is just fancy, all new floors, and oh wow, you have like automatic lighting.
What looks like a cathedral, and it's a 7-Eleven on the inside.
Yeah, basically. And so it's just really funny to see these kind of
not what I was expecting.
Okay, no joke. There's like, so you go down to like I don't know what you would call it. So outside of where the main castle is, there's obviously like the little village, right, for the castle that all the people would live in because they're scared of living too far away from the wall. And
yeah, the undead burg. I got it.
Okay, exactly. So Prague's undead burg is filled with a lot of shops and consulate buildings. And so one thing is, don't stand in front of the U.S. consulate and take pictures. They really get suspicious of that.
Oh yeah, that's a travel thing for all the sheltered furries listening to this. Is like, don't take pictures in front of government buildings. It will get you in trouble. Don't do that. It's bad to do.
They don't like that. I was okay because it was very cold, very dark, and I'm very fast at walking, so they didn't have time to catch me. But I was very amused by like this beautiful government building with an ugly American flag in front of it. It's like this beautiful, ornate old building, and then you just got like this shitty American flag, and then a little poster on the outside. It's like, sorry, we're not open today. Okay, thanks, I guess. All right. Very American of you. I appreciate it. But all down this road, there's like this bunch of these like little roads and stuff. And on the sides are just, these beautiful old buildings attached. They're just like, one big, long, attached shopping mall, essentially. But it's just for walking to. And but in every like third freaking one was a weed shop, but not a real weed shop because they can't sell weed there. So they sell like weed, but not real weed. It's very weird. Like I just kept walking. I was like, oh cool, they have this weird like little shawarma looking place. Oh, there's like the typical tourist trap. Like here's some magnets and some plushies or whatever. And there's like, and you can buy weed. I was like, what? Okay, and so I went in there, and it's like, yeah, you could get like a thumb amount for like $20. I was like, all right, well, that's an interesting. Can I like how would you even? What would you do with this? Because I can see like, but I don't know. It was very funny. And so they're so consistent though. And so there's like, you see these beautiful ornate old buildings, and then inside of it's just this weed shop, and you walk in, and it is a super modern looking store, right? It's got like the glass shelves, it's got like nice lighting, everything's like very modern aesthetic, but it's funny to see like in this little castle town, there's so many of these modern 7-Eleven convenience store style stuff inside of these ancient buildings that clearly have been hollowed out, gutted out.
Do you want to buy a bong in this hollowed out cathedral?
Yeah, right. Like this is somebody's like in retrospect, we went to a little village that literally like is on like next to the castle, like literally next to the castle, little village. The hallway's not even big enough for like two people to walk past, and these little houses are there. Like these are the houses for the people that worked in the castle, and one of them was where Kafka lived.
Cool.
He stayed there for a while. I think he wrote the Metamorphosis in there, which would make sense because what a terrifying place to live. Like, but also it doesn't have. So it basically is like a 2-bedroom home where you don't have a kitchen. Your kitchen's like built into the 1 bedroom, and then you have a secondary bedroom, which I think is just for like, I don't know, storage. I guess you put stuff to store in there, but there's no bathroom. There's 1 bathroom for the entire town, and you have to go like out of your way to get to it. Yeah. There's 1 town bathroom. It was very
weird. Europeans they have a real different take on bathroom culture than us Americans, I guess.
Yeah, it's like definitely not like Disneyland. Disneyland has a lot more bathrooms. But
least realistic part of Disneyland, too many bathrooms.
No, this makes sense though. If Dark Souls was based on this, I didn't see any bathrooms in Lordran, so I guess this all adds up.
And so it all culminates into there was a what's it called? There was in the castle, or I guess like the castle isn't really a castle. so to speak. It's not like what you would consider. It's not like a Disney castle, right? Like the silly little arches and the top part. It doesn't look like that. It's very more.
Castle's not like a castle, really, because it's not like a Disney castle, which is what castles are.
Well, those castles are based on European castles.
The facsimile based on castles is the example of what a real castle is, and this real castle wasn't a real castle because it wasn't like the fake castle.
Prague's castle doesn't look like a very good castle. All right, when you imagine a castle, when you say castle, you have an image that comes into your head. It looks like the typical standard like medieval castles. This does not look like that. This is a lot more tame and mellow looking. The only thing that looks like that is the cathedral, because again, this entire country is just cathedral. It's like Turkey, but for Europeans. Turkey has like the most mosques per capita, and this place has the most cathedrals per capita. It's insane. It's crazy.
It's like Turkey for Europeans is probably the most insane thing you could possibly say, because Turkey is partially in Europe, my friend.
Well, yeah, it's partially there, but it's not full. Okay, sorry. This is the Prague is the Catholic version of Turkey's Muslim version, which is
there
like
we go.
they have a bunch of mosques per capita. Prague has like a bunch of cathedrals per capita, like too many. Like someone needs to stop doing this. And even inside of the castle is like this beautiful giant freaking cathedral, and it's the most like it's too much money. It's too much money was spent on this thing. I can see that they didn't invest a lot of money into the castle and spent too much on the cathedral. And that upset me a lot because I wanted more castle. And
well, that's the way it's got to be, man. Back in the day, back in the dark ages, you gotta spend money on God, not yourself. That's how you get into heaven, where everything is good.
I need to tell you.
I just love Andrew's ability to chase the furry discussion with something comparatively unhinged. So
we were talking about the stinky swirls. The European version of Turkey.
Suddenly, the Vormy Daddy mixed drink was the most normal thing we discussed this week.
This is why usually I don't get to leave the country very often. It's because I am a nuisance.
Because of all the government watch lists.
Yeah, the real reason why you're not allowed to take pictures in front of the government offices is because they will realize you're in the other country and they'll scoop you up and send you back to the U.S. to prevent further damage.
Yeah. That's why I went there when they were closed, because they knew they couldn't come out and get me.
The Andrew must be contained. We can't stop it entirely, but we can diminish its effects.